Yo, what is up guys, I am BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another Zombies Q&A on the channel where we take your questions from the comment section below to do with the zombie storyline, Easter eggs and much more, and we answer them. So as always, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like rating. Also, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest content on the channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. So the first question of the day from Alex Hernandez says, why do the zombies in Mob of the Dead not attack the weasel? So if you don't know, for the end Easter egg for Mob of the Dead, which is called Pop Goes the Weasel, there are either two endings. We don't know which one of them is the main ending, since you get the achievement for doing either, but you can either break the cycle or choose to continue it. We break it by the weasel getting revenge and killing Sal, Billy and Finn on the Golden Gate Bridge. That is how you break the cycle. Or you can continue it by Sal, Billy and Finn killing the weasel, just like they did originally on the rooftop of the prison. But like you said, when it comes to this situation at the end of the Easter egg, the zombies won't attack the weasel. They will still go to attack Sal, Billy and Finn, but they won't attack the weasel. Now obviously in terms of game mechanics, I don't think it'd be fair if the zombies attack the weasel as well. So he's got not only 3 other characters trying to shoot him, but also the zombies coming at him as well. So to make it easier, the zombies don't go after him. I'm not too sure if there's any story or actual reason behind it though. I'm not really sure why the zombies wouldn't go after Al. I mean, we don't even know who's controlling the zombies in Mob of the Dead, so we can't pin it down to someone like Samantha or Monty. Honestly though, we don't know. There could be no reason behind it at all. It could just be because it wouldn't be fair if the zombies attacked Al as well. The next question says, who is the man in the blank picture in Kino? Is it Monty or the Shadow Man? So I've taken a look at this blank portrait a few times in the past. I think the last time I actually spoke about it properly was like over a year ago. But there's always and still is a lot of mystery behind it. Even now with us having all of the information we have the Canorian, we've had the remastered Chronicle map of Kino, and even now we still don't know who this is. There are a few different characters that we could put in this picture, but we don't know 100% who this could be. Whether this is going to be revealed in the future, we don't know. Treyarch have still left loads of gaps in our storyline, and this is definitely one of them. This could be someone that we know, this could be a character that we've never met or heard of before. But we know on the walls of Kino, and we've had this since this map first released, there are portraits of Takeo, Nikolai, Dempsey and Richtofen, which in itself don't make sense. There is no reason as to why pictures of these characters would be in this theatre. Yes, we know that it was a Group 935 base. This was their main base of operations where they created the zombies. However, Richtofen never knew about it. He never visited Kino before. Maxis kept it a secret from him. And so when we play, that is the first time that he goes there, yet there are pictures of him and our other characters on the walls in Kino. That makes no sense. Yes, if Richtofen had visited here before, then you could say maybe he put this picture of himself on the wall. That still doesn't explain Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey's, but he hasn't, so that in itself is a mystery. And as we also know, there is a 5th blank portrait, which is this one right here. And if you go up to it and press X on it with any of our characters, they all say a quote about this portrait. This is what they say.
Hey, look! It's nobody!
Well, someone stole the image from this picture.
Maybe what was is no more, but shall be again.
This one didn't photograph so well.
So Dempsey says, hey Luke, it's nobody. Nikolai says someone stole the image from this picture. Takeo says maybe what was is no more but shall be again. And Richtofen just simply says this one didn't photograph so well. So you can see it's not just, you know, a prop in the game. It's not just something there. There seems to be some meaning behind it, but we don't know. Takeo seems to be the most important. He says maybe what was is no more but shall be again. But what exactly that means, who he's referring to, it could be anyone. Now there's been theories that this could be Pablo Marinus. As we know, Pablo was one of Richtofen's test subjects. That was until he killed him and replaced him with Dempsey. But since Richtofen and his test subjects are all on the wall, well, this blank portrait could be his 5th dead test subject, Pablo Marinus. Although that doesn't really line up with Takeo's quote, maybe what was is no more. That's true because he's dead, but shall be again? I don't know about that. There's also been theories that this could be Dr. Monty or the Shadow Man. With the Shadow Man, I think there is a link there. Maybe what was is no more but shall be again. And we know that the Shadow Man existed for eons of years. He was defeated hundreds of years ago, so he was no more. but he did come again, as Takeo says, in Revelations, when he was unleashed from the summoning key and brought doom to Monty's perfect universe. So I suppose you could say maybe this blank portrait is the Shadow Man. Then of course there's also Dr. Monty, a character that was vacant for a very long time. He wasn't really too involved in our storyline, but then he did come into our story in BO3, so I guess you could say maybe it's Dr. Monty. Apart from that though, I can't really think of anyone else. The only three characters that I would say is Monty, the Shadow Man, or Pablo. But if you guys have any idea of who you think this could be, definitely let me know in the comment section below. It's a strange one. Whether this will ever be revealed, I don't know. To be honest, I don't think it will. Maybe 5 could somehow shed some more light on this, but that's just me hoping. A question from Matthew Hall says, will we ever see the Primis story continue? Now this was a strange one because obviously our Primis story ended with BO3 Revelations, where we defeat the Shadow Man, banish the Apothicons, and then because our Primis characters drank the blood vials, that meant they didn't fade away. They continued to exist. However, they couldn't exist in Monty's perfect universe due to it causing a paradox. And so we know that Monty sent us back to Primis. We became Primis, wielding our staffs, I believe it was in the 1300s, on the Great Mound just after they defeated the Apothicons. That was where the cutscene ended for Revelations, and that was the last we ever saw of BO3 zombies. And then Black Ops 4 Zombies suddenly comes around, and we find out we've started a whole new story. We are no longer continuing where we left off, what we saw at the end of Black Ops 3 Zombies. Instead, they are carrying on with the Primis storyline. However, instead of continuing straight after Revelations, which would mean we'd go back to the beginning of the cycle, we are going back to the Primis story, but halfway in between Zetsubo and Gorod Kurovi, but also in between Origins and Shadows of Evil. It's really difficult to explain because it's a multiverse. We've got loads of different universes merging at once. There's not one specific time that we're going there because there's multiple characters from multiple universes. It's hard to explain, but even though we technically are carrying on with the Primis story, I know what you mean. You're basically asking me, will we ever see what happened after Revelations, when our characters got sent back to the beginning of the cycle to become Primis? Will we ever carry on after that? Are we ever going to have a zombies map that is in the 1300s where we are playing as Primis using the original staffs? Will we ever find out what happened to them? Because all we know, according to the Canorium, is that once this happened, these characters then disappeared from history, never to be seen again. We don't know what happened to the original staffs. Did they take them with them? Did they bury them? Did they do something with them? What happened to the Primis characters after they disappeared? Where did they go? Did they go on more journeys? Because we don't see them again until hundreds of years later. I would love to know what happened in that very long gap that the Primis characters were missing. And I am kind of hoping that in the future we do get a zombies map that continues after Revelations, where we go back to the 1300s, play as these characters and use the original staffs. But yeah, so technically we are carrying on with the Primis story, although not where we left off in Revelations. We're actually intervening like halfway in the middle of the timeline, but because our timeline's now a multiverse, it's like we're going in at different points depending on how you look at it. And it also seems like Blood of the Dead isn't just a continuation of our cycle. This map is gonna kind of veer off from the timeline. The timeline's one big cycle. Blood of the Dead is gonna, well, it seems like at least, it's gonna break that cycle and go off in its own direction, meaning that maps after this, Revelations, Gorod Kurovi, maybe don't happen, and instead we get a different ending to what we saw in Revelations. If after Blood of the Dead we get more DLCs carrying on with the Primis story after Blood, then that could mean that Gorod Kurovi Revelations never happened, and instead our Primis characters go on to different locations and do different things. Maybe it turns out Dr. Monty's evil, the children don't end up in the house. It could really lead onto a lot of things. This part is super difficult to explain. I know what I mean in my head, but it's quite difficult to word it. But yes, I do want to see the Primis story continue from Revelations. I want to see exactly what happened after we see our Primis characters on the Great Mound holding up their staffs. I want to know where they went for hundreds of years, what they did, where they disappeared to. But we are technically carrying on with the Primis story in blood. So anyway guys, there we go, that is it for today's video. Hopefully as always you have enjoyed. If you have, a like rating would be appreciated. Of course you don't have to if you don't want to. Make sure you are subscribed if you want to stay up to date with the latest zombies content on the channel, and as always I will see you in the next video. Leave your questions down below, and until next time, goodbye.